In this video, I'm going to show you how to take a Streamlit app like this or any Streamlit app that you have and deploy it on Heroku. I'm going to show you from A to Z how to deploy a Streamlit app on Heroku, including how to hide your API key if you're using an API key. So in this application here that you're looking at, I am using Google's API key, so I can access the Gemini 1.5 large language model. So the code basically here for the app is looking for an API key. So in my local environment, I have a variable called Google API key new, which is required for me to really leverage a large language model when I upload a file and summarize and all that stuff, right? So if you have an API key in your code for your Streamlit app, I'll show you how to hide that as well, because I know folks get confused about how to do that. And if you have an API key, you definitely want to not reveal it anywhere. This, as you can see, this app is showing in my local host, but let's say I wanted to launch this on Heroku and I have an API key involved here. I'll show you how to hide that. So A to Z, how to deploy a Streamlit app on Heroku. I'm not necessarily going to deploy this guy, but I'm going to show you how to do it from A to Z, I promise. Before I get going, if you find this video useful and helpful, please like it and subscribe to my channel. So let's get going. Requires that you have a GitHub account, and on your home page here, what you will do is click this plus sign, say let's create a new repository, because it's the repository that we will need to load or connect to within Heroku. When we get there, I'll show you how to do that. So here, let's come up with something. Hide your key, something like that. Give it a description. Deploy a Streamlit app to Heroku and hide your API key, something like that. You have a choice to make this repo public or private. Yeah, for this case, well, doesn't matter, call it public. README file, I'm not going to create one, but it's usually a good idea, especially if it's going to be, whether it's public or not, it's a good idea. All right, create a repository. So first thing we need to do is if you already have a code on your local machine, right, on your C drive or whatever, you can just upload that existing file. We're going to create a new code here. Let's import Streamlit as st, import OS, and what's the generative AI, right? Import, Google.j, this guy here. Let's see. All right, let's say let's start the code with, say, if main, and we're going to let's say we need this environment variable here, so we're going to put that here, and then we'll call this function, and I'm just going to make this up. I'm not creating a real app, real big app here. Just going to keep it simple. I'm trying to show you how to. If you already had a Python code, you would upload it here, or you can take it from your local machine and copy and paste it in here. So I'm going to say st.header. This is a dummy app. I don't know. There you go. Okay, we're going to name this file. Call it app.py. As soon as I put py, it knows it's a Python code and color codes and stuff. I'm going to indent this guys here. All right. And I'm going to commit changes, basically saving it. Okay. So let's say you got the code. I created one, simple. It's just going to have one header. I'm trying to show you, assuming you had your code here, which is, let's say, 100 lines, does something useful. There are 3 other files we need. So I'm going to show you the first one that requires that we declare all the Python libraries that Heroku is going to have to install on our behalf. So it's going to need to install Streamlit. It's going to need to install the Google Generative AI. And that's it. It's not going to require the OS. There are some of the some of the libraries are standard that once Heroku recognizes the Python code, it's going to have some of those libraries. So if you had like matplotlib or something, you would enter all those libraries here that your code depends on. So let's save this. You always have to call this requirements.txt, and you just declare all the libraries and commit changes, basically saving it. All right, 2 other files that are Heroku specific that are required. Let's create the first one. It's the shell file. It's the shell file that we need to include. I'm just going to paste it in the description below. I'm going to leave all these things for you, like the shell file and everything that I'm showing you here. So, and you always have to name this setup.sh. All right. As soon as I did that, as you can see, this guy lit up. I'm not going to unpack this guy here, but basically, Heroku will unpack it. It's going to know it's a Streamlit app, etc., to help you deploy the app through Heroku. Commit changes, saving it. All right. The last one that we need to create, it's a 1 line. All right. So only thing before I do this, I should actually told you this. The shell file setup.sh, and that's rinse and repeat. So for any Streamlit app that you're looking to deploy through Heroku, you use that same shell file, the same setup.sh. So I'm going to give it to you in the description below. So once you have it, that's rinse and repeat. And with this last file that it looks for, it requires is it's called Procfile, and P has to be capitalized. Setup shell, S doesn't have to be capitalized, but this one, Procfile, P has to be capitalized. Only thing you would have to change is what is the name of your Python code? What's the file name? I always pretty much in my repos I'll call it app.py. But let's say your code was xyz.py, you would actually change this to xyz. That's all it is, 1-liner. It's rinse and repeat except for the file name. But if you always use app.py, then it's then you got nothing to worry about. Okay, so your code, the 3 files that are required by Heroku, we got them here. All right, let's go to Heroku. If you don't have a Heroku account, you're going to have to open one up. Let's say you have one, you go click that little guy there. I already have a bunch of apps that I've launched. What you would do is click on New, Create New App. Let's name it something. So here it's actually good to think about what do you want to name it, because your URL that you're going to get for your app through Heroku is going to start with this app name. So always make it something that is recognizable. So in our case, I'm just going to stay consistent, hide your key. I don't know if it's available. Okay, it's available. Create app. That's all you got to do is name something, because your URL is going to start with that. Create app. How am I going to deploy this? By connecting to GitHub. So you say GitHub connect to GitHub. So you just click that guy. I already have Heroku connected to my my GitHub account. So if you'll have to do that initially. If you haven't done that, it will give you an option to do so. Okay, and then here I'm going to look for the repository that we just created. I'm going to connect to it. All right, and then you should always enable automatic deploys. Yeah, so it's good to have continuous integration and continuous sort of like deployment. So anytime, all this is really doing is if I ever came back here and changed my code, I added 3 more lines or something, by enabling this, it will integrate the changes. All right, so now it's going to default to the main branch. You leave it as such and just say deploy this branch. And now it's going to take, let's say, like a minute and a half, 2 minutes to take this code and use the other files here. Use this other files, Procfile requirements, setup.sh, all of that to package the app for you, and we'll have a chance to then view that app as a standalone web application. So it's going to have a unique URL that you can then share with your friends, and this is how we can get the Streamlit app that you built and share that with friends and family or whoever you want to share it with. And that's what I'm showing you how to do here, sort of A to Z. One thing I'm going to show you is, one thing I need to show you is how to hide the API key. Let's just wait. It's installing all the different libraries and all that. While it's doing that, I'll show you how to do that. You would go to settings, config variables, and here I'm going to say I need, what do we need here? We need this guy here, Google API key new. So Google API key new. So this is my local environment. There's a variable called Google API key new, and it holds the API value. And I'm going to make one up, guys. Let's say all right, add. Let's say you also had an OpenAI API key, etc., etc. You would just, that you're using. But the important thing is you want to use this guy here, because when I was running this on my local host, it was looking for this environment variable named Google API key and retrieving the value associated with that. So that's important. So you would, put in OpenAI, etc. I'm going to hide this. That guy's done. Let's go back. Sorry, to deploy. As you can see here, I should have waited for the thing to get built and then shown you how to hide the key, but I already showed you that. So I'm deploying it, redeploying it with the config variable now. So, this, while it takes a minute or so to do this, it detects things like it's a Python app, right? Because of .py, and we didn't specify any versions and stuff. I typically don't do that. It's going to install a bunch of the things. Here's the Procfile declares type, so it tells you what type. It's a web. Launching a web app, and here's the. See, we named it hide your key. So this is the URL it has created for us. So it's always going to start with the app name that you provided initially, and then it comes up with some random, values, and it always ends with .herokuapp.com. So it's done. Let's go view it. And it should have a dummy header. There you go, guys. A to Z, man. I showed you how to take your code, take your Python code that built the Streamlit app, provide these 3 other files in a repo, come to Heroku, and you say GitHub connect, and you provide that repository name and connect it. Always say enable automatic deploys. I already done it. So, and then you always deploy the branch, the main branch. It takes like a minute and a half or so. In this case, so it could take longer depending on how big how many libraries and all that stuff you have. Okay, guys, A to Z to take a Streamlit app, put it on GitHub along with these 3 files. Now you know how to do it. A to Z, including how to hide your API key like that. All right. Hope you found this useful and helpful, and if so, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. I'd appreciate that. Until next time.